Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So I've been pretty quiet, but I'm back and I'm actually not going to be talking about celebrities or influencers in this video. If you don't know, 6 months ago I made a video talking about the Dulce Maria Alavez case and focused on her mother's weird behavior and things that people thought about her. And I still get like a lot of comments on that video that I made 6 months ago. So thanks to those who have watched it and commented, even though the video is kind of bad to be honest, but anyways, this is an update video. If you don't know anything about Dulce's case, I suggest watching my video I made, but if you don't want to watch it, then I understand. But basically, I'll just keep it short and simple. This little girl has been missing since September 16 of 2019. Her mother's name is Noema Perez Alavez. She took Dulce and her siblings to the park and let her daughter and son play there in the park while she sat in the car scratching a lottery ticket. So Dulce, who was 5 at the time, disappeared that day and was clearly abducted. Her case is a mystery and has pretty much gone cold, but police are still hoping to find her one day. There just isn't a lot of information that they have, sadly. They have interviewed hundreds of people and still haven't gotten close to even having an idea of where she could be. They have just gotten a lot of witnesses and people saying different things. And it doesn't help that the park where Dulce was at the time had no security cameras at all. People have criticized Dulce's family, especially the mother, for seeming cold and weird, and there has just been many conspiracies to what could have happened to Dulce. But with the little media coverage on Dulce, there has been a documentary that came out September 15th called Somebody Knows Something: The Disappearance of Dulce. You can watch it on YouTube from the NBC 10 Philadelphia YouTube channel and other platforms, but I watched this documentary that was like 52 minutes on YouTube and made some notes of things I wanted to talk about with you guys. So in this documentary, the NBC 10 investigative reporter Claudia Vargas takes a fresh look into Dulce's last known steps. She spoke with Dulce's family and case investigators. So to keep things very clear with you guys, for this specific video, my video, I'm going to just talk a little bit about how they started off the documentary, and then I'm going to get straight into the things I found very interesting and so weird. So in the beginning, they just show the mayor of the town, who talks about how 50% of people in Bridgeton are Hispanics. Then they get into Noema, who is Dulce's mom's backstory, and how her parents came from Mexico to Bridgeton in South Jersey. They mention how Dulce's mom grew up there and her parents wanted her to have a good life with a good education, but she got pregnant at only 13 years old, and of course her mom wasn't happy that her minor daughter was pregnant, but her parents agreed to help their daughter raise her child. So she gave birth to Dulce Maria Alavez, and the father of Dulce was deported to Mexico, and so he couldn't spend any more time with Dulce. The grandmother of Dulce fell in love with the little girl, and in the documentary, she seemed very sad, and you could hear it in her voice. They talk about how Dulce was and how after Dulce, Noema had her son Manuel. So they kept talking about Dulce and how she loved going to school. Now I'm going to get into the things I found interesting and weird. So first things first, they mentioned in the documentary how Noema was in the car while her son and Dulce played in the park while she sat in and working on a lottery scratch off. And another girl who was a relative named Camila was in the car working on her homework. So Noema, she couldn't really see the swing set area. She doesn't remember how much time went by that, she was in the car until she realized Dulce was gone. She said maybe 5 minutes, which now I don't believe that. And as she says this, she just sounds tired, like a little slow. And overall, her demeanor is off. But she clearly was irresponsible as hell, and I think she was in that car for way more than 5 minutes. When she realized she couldn't see her kids no more, she said that she made the little girl Camila check, which to me is so weird. If you see your kids are gone and you know you weren't really paying attention earlier, wouldn't you freak out and immediately get out of the car yourself looking for your 3-year-old and 5-year-old? Why would you make a kid check? Go check yourself as an adult. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? Anyways, she finally started checking and yelling Dulce's name after Camila came back, saying she couldn't find Dulce. She just came back with Manuel, and so Manuel and Camila were with Noema. Manuel was the last person seen with Dulce, but because he was a 3-year-old and nonverbal, all he could do was point. He pointed to a set of sheds in the documentary when Noema was with the reporter and they were looking at the sheds. She begins to show some emotion for the first time. And her voice gets shaky and she makes it clear she's uncomfortable being there. So she says that she started asking anyone around there and showing people pictures of her daughter, asking if they had seen Dulce, and many people claim to not have seen her. That part was very interesting because if you've been following this case for a while, you know that Dulce's mom doesn't really show any emotion. She just comes off very cold and serious. But after 40 minutes, 40 minutes, she recognized a woman that she knew in high school. She asked her if she had seen her daughter, and the girl shared a potential clue and theory. She saw Dulce running behind these houses and a black man walking behind them, and maybe he took her. Then another girl mentioned a Hispanic-looking man lurking around, and that's when Noema finally called the cops. But guess what, you guys? Noema actually called her brother before calling the police, which I thought is so off in a situation like this. And just doesn't make sense to me. It just seems like since the beginning, she was already going about the situation in ways you wouldn't expect a mother to go. Most mothers would seem more frantic and wouldn't wait 40 minutes to call the police, much less call anyone else before calling the police about their missing 5-year-old. Another thing to add, in the documentary, in a lot of the recordings of Noema on the phone with the police dispatchers, she seemed calm, which was kind of off to me. But anyways, in the documentary, investigators said that her waiting 40 minutes to call the police hindered their investigation immensely, and it widens the gap of where the missing child or person could go, and they lose control of a smaller area that could have been confined if they had been notified earlier, because obviously if a child goes missing, time is of the essence. It's common sense. The more time you wait to call the police, the more far gone the child could be, making it harder for them to find the child. So I know this part of the documentary made people more pissed off at Dulce's mother once more. Now, you guys, I'm going to tell you something that really made me done with Dulce's mom, okay? Something that I found so weird, but I forgot to mention earlier, was that Noema says in the interview that she was thinking, should I call the police? Which I thought was just not normal. I feel like any parent wouldn't think twice. They would just do it instinctively and sure as hell not call their brother first, then after 40 minutes call the police. Anyways, they had many officers coming in, looking in the woods and interviewing people, etc. So, yeah. Something that also pissed me off was that there wasn't a Amber Alert released right away for Dulce, okay? Literally, they said there just wasn't enough evidence that Dulce was abducted, and there was no camera at the park, and so the Bridgeton police posted about her being missing on Facebook. Then they had this man, Major Tom Wiserak, who is the New Jersey State Police, come in basically explaining why there wasn't a Amber Alert release for Dulce right away. He was saying there's certain criteria to be met. First, a child must be known to be abducted. Second, the child has to be under 18. And third is that there should be reasonable belief the child is believed to be harmed or fear of death. And finally, the determination must be made by investigators that there's enough info put out to make it effective. I think that they waited too long to issue a Amber Alert. It's ridiculous that he's saying that with Dulce there wasn't enough info to determine that she met the criteria to have an Amber Alert issued. It's stupid because obviously she does, and she was missing for over 24 hours, and after 29 hours, finally they released the Amber Alert. And what pissed me off is that this man, when the reporter asked him why the delay, he said it wasn't a delay, and there's a lot of factors into knowing when to release an Amber Alert. To me, what he said was a load of BS. Even though I think the police and FBI really used a lot of their resources and really cared to find this child, I really do think they did a good job. I just think the delay in having an Amber Alert issued wasn't right. In the documentary, the police believe they identified the black man who a witness suspected could have taken Dulce, had nothing to do with Dulce going missing, actually. So when they released the Amber Alert finally, it just mentioned the description of a Hispanic male who is a suspect, but they haven't located him, unfortunately. Anyways, I found it very interesting in the documentary that they actually exposed Dulce's mom's background of being on drugs and partying a lot, smoking a lot of marijuana, which explains why she seems kind of slow to me. And honestly, watching this documentary, seeing Noema do the interviews, to me, she looked like she could have been on some kind of substance, and she just seemed very off. And in the comments, people were noticing it as well. You can pause to read the comments if you would like, but basically they're just saying the same things as me, saying her demeanor is off and that she could be on drugs. But Noema and her family were questioned, obviously to see if they were involved, and the interviewer asked Noema if she thinks any family was involved. The way that Noema answered this question to me was very bizarre.
Do you think any family was involved? To be honest, I don't know. I wasn't really so close to my daughter.
What do you guys think about that response? Because when she said she didn't know and wasn't really close to her daughter, I just thought she didn't need to say that, and that it was a red flag, further just confirming to me even more the kind of mother that she was to Dulce, who doesn't pay attention, which is obvious considering the situation. But hearing that she gave custody to Dulce to her mother and how she didn't spend a lot of time with Dulce also confirmed to me even more while watching this documentary of how much of an absent mother she was. And I know she was a young mother and all, but I just think that's really weird, and this just gives into conspiracies people have that she probably sold her daughter for money. So despite all of that, the documentary does say that Noema and her family had to take lie detectors to see if they had any involvement in Dulce's disappearance, and they passed. Noema made it clear she has guilt for being a terrible mother, but to me, she doesn't seem that distraught. But who knows? She could be telling the truth. Who am I to say she's not? But that's just my opinion. She doesn't seem that distraught. I found it interesting that the documentary mentioned that Dulce lived with her grandmother and would see her mother on the weekends. Noema was living with her boyfriend, who was Manuel's father, and she was working a lot, but to give full custody and parental rights to the grandmother, I don't know. Did she really want to be a mother to Dulce? She said she loved Dulce though, but I just find it weird. And I know the father of Dulce and his family was also thoroughly investigated, and aren't involved at all, but in the documentary, I can't believe that in the area that Dulce was at and abducted, that there are 2 schools nearby and a wide variety of ball fields, and it's a very busy area, but there's just no footage, no cameras that caught any clues. I think it's ridiculous that in an area where there are many vulnerable children, especially at a park, that there weren't any cameras. How negligent and messed up. But the police made it clear that whoever abducted her was very aware and familiar with the area and comfortable enough to do what they did, which I definitely agree. Sadly, the $75,000 reward money that was being offered to anyone who had any info about Dulce's disappearance didn't do much, because people who may know something might be holding back information because of their immigration status, and the mayor assured people that anyone who knows any info shouldn't fear the police. Throughout the documentary, they talk about a lot of things, but do mention following certain psychics' tips and etc. I find it sad that it all led to nothing, just dead ends. It's just sad that it hindered the investigation, but I know that part of the process is checking every tip. And it's sad that in 2020, because of the coronavirus, it delayed some of the investigation and the budget needed to install cameras in the park. But I'm glad now there are cameras at Bridgeton Park. Something I want to mention is in the documentary, it was mentioned that the tips and leads started to dry up as people were starting to suspect Dulce's family. I also wanted to mention that I found it very concerning and also a red flag that Dulce's father was convicted in 2017 of endangering, abusing, and neglecting a minor who was between the ages of 13, 14, or 15. And guys, even though they investigated her dad and he has nothing to do with her disappearance, there's no denying that poor Dulce deserved better. Clearly, yes, her family is just off, okay? Especially her mom. I really hope they find out what really happened to Dulce. It breaks my heart. And I found it weird that her father didn't want to be part of the documentary. It's mentioned that they tried to contact him, but it was a fail. So honestly, who knows? I don't want to judge too much. Maybe he's just highly uncomfortable and it's just too painful for him to talk about his missing daughter. But who really knows? Towards the end of the documentary, Noema seems guilty and sad. I think maybe she didn't do anything to her daughter, but that she probably knows more than what she's saying, and maybe she did sell her daughter and just feels guilty about it. I don't know. As I continued watching this documentary, I just want to say thank God they changed the sketch of what they think Dulce would have looked like today, because the old sketch looked terrible, okay? Nothing like Dulce. This is what she should be looking like today. I found it interesting that in January of 2022, the police were still keeping a close eye on Dulce's family. Detectives came to Noema's home with a search warrant and confiscated all their phones, computers, and tablets. To me, I wondered what must have happened in order for them to be granted a search warrant by the judge. And the fact that they are still considered suspects to this day is interesting. It makes me wonder if the police have certain info they have found that they're keeping away from the public, because there are investigators that will do that so that it doesn't hinder the investigation. Maybe they are onto something. I really hope questions will be answered and this case can be solved, because Dulce deserves to be found. Personally, I don't think she is with us anymore. Most kids who are abducted for more than 24 hours aren't living anymore. But of course, deep down, I wish she could be found alive and well, but it's unlikely, especially because it's been 4 years. Either way, I hope she can receive some kind of justice and whoever took her can be held responsible and punished. I am glad that this documentary was made. I think it was made very well, and I've been following this case since 2019 when this was on the news and everything and was playing out, and the search parties were going on and many psychics were trying to find Dulce as well. I suggest watching the documentary yourself. It's really good, and there's so much in the documentary that I didn't mention. I just spoke on what was weird or interesting to me and what overall stood out to me. I tried my best to cover what I could, but I suggest watching it for yourselves. Anyways, that will be all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video if you like it. I would appreciate it so much, because it took me a lot of time to make this video. I had to work on it on different days. But thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Let me know what you think about all of this down below. And yes, this was a long one, I know. But thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day or night. Bye, guys.